Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Mavani. Today is 15th October and this day is celebrated as International Day of Rural Women. It all started back in 2007. A resolution was passed in United Nations and the first International Day of Rural Women was celebrated back in 2008, and since then the whole world is celebrating, and we should celebrate it because if we visit countryside, if we go to villages, then what we find is that women over there, they are working in industrial sector, whatever small industries we have in our rural area. And I'm not just talking about India's rural area. You can take into consideration on your screen. You can see some ladies from, if I'm not wrong, they are from Peru, right? So you have this ladies all across the board, right? They are working in infrastructure area, they are working in rural area, they are working in building dams, they are working in the field of agriculture, animal husbandry, so many things, right? So we need to appreciate this thing, and if we empower them, right, then we can make this world a bit more equal, bit more prosperous, bit more peaceful, and we can create a healthy planet. That's what UNSG, that is United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, has to say. So we have a special lecture on this thing, helping the invisible hands of agriculture. We are going to talk about women in detail, but before that, let's quickly go through this one, right? A very short and sweet article, not sweet, but I would say definitely a short one. Untenable is about this MJ Akbar. He's back in India. He was on official tour to Africa, and he has said that this elections are around the corner, so people are trying to this charges are motivated. That's what he has to say. He has also said that his lawyers are looking after the things and appropriate legal action will be taken on this thing. Now we have to wait and watch for judiciary, but one thing, right, that the Hindu newspaper is suggesting is that he should resign. Now again, it's a topic that will require a proper debate, that whether any person against whom you find any type of particularly a person who is living a public life, like a politician or a bureaucrat, if you find some sort of charges against that person, what do you think, whether that person should resign or whether that person should be grounded for time being? Like, of course, if that person can influence investigation, then yes, we need to make sure that he's grounded, he or she is grounded, so basically off for time being. But then again, the thing is just officially making or asking a person to resign, and if that person is going to be as influential as he or she used to be, then that's not going to change the reality, isn't it? So it's always, it depends who are the people who are dealing with a particular case, and that's a thing that is matter of concern. If other things can be standardized, then why can't we standardize our investigation, right? We have talked about police reforms, and one of the most important police reform that is need of the hour is separation of this investigation department and law and order. What we are having is jack of all and master of none. So police are, many times they are looking after this Ganpati Visarjan or some other sort of festivals. They are looking after law and order, and after a couple of months, the same person would be doing some sort of investigation. So we don't get expert in either of the things. What we need is, we need proper investigators, right? People who are having that, knack about this thing. People who are, designed for, or you can say some of them are born with a talent, and some of them can be, we can generate some investigators. So we need both this you can say pedigree of investigators, and if we have a proper unbiased no political interference in investigation and proper thorough scientific investigation, then the whole process, the whole criminal justice system will get a boost, and we'll find this criminals, they will think twice, not twice but thrice, or maybe 100 times they will think before committing a murder. So rather than saying anything about this particular case, because it's sub judice now, isn't it? Now legal action will decide what will take place. Let's hope that all these issues that we are finding are sorted out as soon as possible, so we can at least know what's the reality associated with this thing. Now, moving on to another item before moving ahead, up to 50% discount available on our pen drive and tablet courses. Last date is 16th October. So make the most out of it. The next thing that I would like to tell you is that you can download the PDF of today's lecture from my FB page and Twitter handle. And please make sure that you share this lecture, not just the PDF, but also video, and also do let other people know about our video lecture series, right? That would be a great help to us. Now, second item that we have is resisting resistance. From my experience, I can tell you that at least twice a year you find this topic. It's about antibiotics, and it is about uncontrolled use of antibiotics in our country. The world's biggest or largest veterinary drug maker, Zoetis, is still selling these antibiotics as growth promoters in our country for this poultry farmers, for poultry farming. You know why it is used? It is used to add that weight, and it will make your chicken look big. So the bigger the chicken, the more money that you will get for it. But what will happen with those people who are consuming that chicken? They are going to develop this antibiotic resistance, and after that they will get this vulnerable to. Of course, there are some direct side effects, but just in case, if they catch a sort of infectious disease, then that's going to create lots and lots of trouble for the people, right? Innocent people. So we need to change this thing. Back in 2017, USA banned this sort of growth promoters, but in India still these things are going on, and I don't blame Zoetis, because they are doing nothing wrong, right? They are doing what is legally permitted in our country. So of course we have to understand this thing, that antibiotic resistance does not respect political boundaries, right? It will impact us, and it is definitely killing us, because as per PLOS medicine paper of 2016, 416 out of 1 lakh Indians die of infectious diseases each year, and 58,000 newborns die in India each year due to sepsis from resistant bacteria. So you can imagine that the pain and this damage that this resistance is creating in our country. And there are three different you can say sources. The first one is overuse of antibiotics by human beings themselves, right? The second is overuse in the veterinary sector, and the third one is environmental antibiotic contamination due to pharmaceutical and hospital discharge, the waste that is coming out from pharmaceutical and hospitals. So it is chucked in lakes, rivers and sewers, and because of this thing we catch, it will mix up with our water, with our soil and with other things, and then it will become part of our food chain. In the sense, it will penetrate in our food chain and then finally enter our body, and then it will start creating this damage with our body. Schedule H1 of the Drugs and Cosmetic Rules 1945 clearly says that there should not be any sort of over-the-counter sale of antibiotics. But you know it very well, I'm sure, right? It's not something new. It's not going to surprise you if I tell you this thing, that it's very easy to buy so many medicines, like sleeping tablets and this antibiotics over the counter. If you just go to you have to find the right pharmacist, or you have to find the right medical store, and you will get it. So this is a big issue here, and it's nearly impossible. When I say nearly impossible, I'm judging it from the strength of state department that is looking after this pharmaceutical sector, right? The strength and the manpower that they have, tools and other things that they have. It looks like impossible for our country to control this or to tame this over-the-counter sale of so many different medicines. Back in 2017, we came out with this National Action Plan on antimicrobial resistance, and it was about restricting antibiotic use as growth promoters. But still, it's going on in our country, it's going on and on. And the last thing that I would like to add here is this one. These pharmaceutical firms, they know it very well, because they are in this business. They know how much damage they are causing to environment, to people, but still, they don't care about. I'm not saying all, but there are few. They don't care about it, and they keep on, throwing these contaminated items or waste. They are, throwing it in our lakes and rivers and other sewers, and this is creating problems for us. So we need to control this thing, or it's going to, it's killing 58,000 newborn babies, and this is going up and up. So it's a matter of concern. Moving on to another item, it's about now helping the invisible hands of agriculture. Now, before moving ahead and before starting our discussion on this particular items that we find in this article, I would like to add here one thing that a couple of years ago, I was reading. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. I was going through a book called. It's known as Women in Indian Society. I think that's the name of this book. It's a book by National Book Trust, and it's not that thick. It's reasonably speaking 120 page book. So I will reckon you guys to go through it, go through this book. If you want to really read this book, then do let me know. I will find out the name of the author as well, if you're genuinely interested then. But I have gone through that book, and that book was very interesting. I came across this fact when I read this thing, helping the invisible hands of agriculture. My mind just came out with this point that a point that I have read in that book, that we don't have any specific female terminology for so many things that are conducted by women. Like, say for example, we say farmer. When we say farmer, in our head as well, we form a picture of a male farmer, right? But if we see people who are working in field, right, and if we calculate the numbers, then we'll find that more ladies are working in field than male. So when we say farmer, again we are consciously, subconsciously, unconsciously, we are discriminating. We are not, this again, you see, invisible hands, right? We are not able to see this hard work or contribution of ladies. When we talk about, now you can go through it, cobbler is there, mason is there. There are so many words. You'll find they are all male words, right? But there are, if I'm not wrong, right, there are no female words, right? One or two, milkmaid, you have, so you have a few, but generally, and it's not just about English, right? You can check your mother tongue as well. In Gujarati, I know we don't have any words. In Hindi, I know we don't have any words. Other languages, you can help yourself with it, right? Even today in police department too, IPS officers, if a lady IPS officer, we term it as a sir rather than madam. So being a madam or using that word is considered a bit soft, but that is not true, right? You cannot stereotype this sort of thing. So a little bit of a contribution from my side as far as this invisible hands is concerned. I'm sure it was interesting. So October 15th is also celebrated, not just a day to appreciate the work of International Rural Women's Day, but it is also celebrated as National Women's Farmers Day, Rashtriya Mahila Kisan Divas in our country. And as I told you, if we visit countryside, we find that particularly when it comes to agriculture, right, at every stage you find ladies. You find they are helping with sowing, planting, drainage, irrigation, fertilizer, plant protection, harvesting, weeding, storage, right? You find ladies, they are there. So they are, when it comes to food security of our country, when it comes to production of our country, agriculture production, they are playing a very important role. Not just in that, they are also playing a very important role in animal husbandry, in dairying, in fisheries. If we visit fish market, then we find ladies are over there, right? If we visit Amul, if we visit other big plants, if we visit this papadum, this papad, Lijjat papad, and other papads that are produced by ladies lot, you find this GEM government e-marketplace. You find so many ladies are, they are making things, small tiny industries from village, right? 3 or 4 or 5 ladies, they are making a particular product and they are selling it. So it's not just rural women are just in rural area. This women lot, they are working in, of course, from rural area, but they are selling items all across the board, and they are everywhere. The only thing is they are invisible. The aim is to work towards an action plan using better access to credit, very important thing, skill development, and entrepreneurial opportunities. If we provide these 3 things, right, then I think nothing can stop them. We can help them achieve their maximum potential. And recently Oxfam India came out with this figure that women are responsible for about 60 to 80% of food production in our country, and 90% of dairy production is coming from them as well. When it comes to agriculture census 2010-11, what we read from this thing is that out of an estimated 118.7 million cultivators, 30.3% were females. When it comes to agricultural laborers, out of 144.3 million, right, 42.6% are female. Operational holdings, that means ownership of agricultural land. The latest agriculture census is this one, 2015-16. And out of 146 million, 20.25 million, right, are ladies when it comes to operational holdings. So feminization of agriculture is something that is expanding quite rapidly. But the thing is, when it comes to implementation of all these things like better access, skill development, entrepreneurial opportunities, and other things, then this thing is still missing. Because the big problem is even today our land ownership issue is not sorted out. If you sort out this land ownership issue, then you can sort out so many things. Because if a lady will not have a land in her name, then what will happen is that she will not get access, or she will not get loan from a formal sector, right? A bank will give you a loan when you are putting something as collateral. Now NABARD can place, NABARD can be placed here, or this gap that we can find, this can be filled up by NABARD by providing loans to all those female farmers, right, who are not having land in their name, but they are engaged with agriculture. As per Food and Agriculture Organization, if we look after our ladies, if we provide them formal credit, if we allow them access to market or just land titles and ownership and other things, if we can sort out these things, then we can see a boost of 2.5 to 4%, right, when it comes to overall output of our country. So that's a very interesting thing coming out from this report of Food and Agriculture Organization. As far as tools are concerned, we need more gender-friendly tools. Like, say, for example, cars are gender-friendly. There are so many things nowadays. Most of the things are gender-friendly. But even today, we find that when we talk about or when we go through this labor market or in this sector of labor, we find that so many things are designed by keeping this man lot in the mind, rather than making gender friendly products. So this can make things easier for ladies. They can become more effective and efficient when it comes to labor work. And the last thing that I would like to add here is Ujjwala Yojana. The connection is given in the name of the lady of the house. So we can do something with something similar with this National Food Security Mission submission on seed and planting material and other things. It can be on the name of women. So this will directly, indirectly give her this, this empowerment. And then, in future, if you have, you will get the seeds and other things or benefits in the name of the lady of the house. And if you have this land ownership in her name, then extra benefits. So this will work as a motivation, isn't it? So that's everything in this article. Moving on to another one. It's about bonding with Africa. Very interesting article. Now, I have a question for you guys. Bonding with Africa in partnership. That's the title of this article. And it's talking about, or it's starting with this $60 billion package for Africa. Can you give me the name of a country that has declared 60 billion package for African continent? Now I want you guys to pause this video here, right? Think about it for a couple of seconds. I'm sure regular students, you are not going to find any difficulty with this thing if you are, giving your 100% when you are going through this lecture and doing necessary things that has been, you are being provided instruction with. And if you are doing timely revision, then I think it's going to be very easy for you guys, right? So I believe now you guys have, posted your answers. If you haven't done it yet, I would highly recommend you guys to do it, right? Do provide your answer, and don't worry about right or wrong answer. Just give your answer, right? It's fine. It's not going to decide whether you will pass or fail in examination. It's just a first start. If you are a bit shy about not typing your answer, if you think that you don't feel comfortable, then see, you have to get rid of a bit of shyness. Is fine, right? There is no harm in it. But when this is working as your when it is holding your legs, and if it is not allowing you to move, if it is like a straight jacket, then you need to get rid of that shyness. This is not shyness. This is more a sort of fear carrying a face of shyness. So right, so the 60 billion package for Africa was declared by Xi Jinping during this forum on China-Africa Cooperation, FOCSC, that took place in China. And 54 heads of African continent, you have some 54 countries in this Africa. So all of them were present in this meeting. This meeting takes place every 3 years between Africa and China, and same thing goes with India and Africa. Last meeting took place back in 2015. We have something similar, format when it comes to engaging with Africa. So back in 2015, I think if I'm not wrong, some 50 or 51 heads or 51 countries took part. 3 or 4 countries were not present. For some strange reason. I don't remember, to be honest. But anyways, that's not important. The most important thing here is that we too have this sort of relationship with Africa. Now, when we were talking about NAM just a couple of days ago, remember when we were talking about India and Japan, remember we talked about this Asia Africa growth corridor. So I have talked about many things, isn't it? I gave you this background information, and I believe this will help you a lot in understanding this article here. So what this article is talking about, and this is a very important thing, I genuinely believe that if we do this thing, then that's going to be a game changer for both the nations as well as for the people of Africa, China and India, right? If we are serious, if we are sincere about the rise of Africa, right, then we need to collaborate with each other, and we can work together to develop this continent. And this is going to bring so many opportunities for us, for China. China is having huge money. India is having, very well, right? We talked about this thing, so I'm not repeating. But for new students, I have to. So very quickly, we have young population, we have talented people, right? We have a good credit. When I say credit, I mean to say we have a good, goodwill. Goodwill means basically reputation in Africa. So African countries, they really like India. They have this soft corner for India. So we have this connection. China is having money, so we can together form a partnership, and then we can develop this Africa. So it's going to be win-win for all three of us, for the continent and for these two countries, and this will also help us to sort out other issues that we have between each other. Remember, during this Wuhan meeting, we talked about this 2+1 format. Now, 2+1 means you have China and India together, and together these two countries will talk with another country, so we can add a continent here. So I strongly endorse this thing, right? It will bring, but I believe in future we may find some articles and we will come across some facts. And if I come across some facts, not just from articles but from my research that I do simultaneously, right, for you guys. So if I come across something, then we will talk about this thing as well on Sunday. Now, moving on to another item, this is about the imperative of impact assessment. Very easy to understand article, right? This one is talking about that before we pass a law, before we implement a law, it is very important that we assess, we scrutinize a law, we think about its implementation, side effects. If we are going to get any, we have to make sure that if there are any side effects of any law in society or in our polity or in our general life, then we have to make sure that it is as minimum as possible and the benefits are as maximum as possible. But what happens when we don't go through this sort of deliberation, when we don't go through this sort of debate and discussion because of various political things that are going on in our country? We talked about this thing as well, that too much time is being wasted. Precious time in parliament is wasted, in legislative assembly as well, same thing is going on. So because of this thing, we are missing this opportunity. And there are countries like Kenya, you have countries like Finland, they have this mechanism in place for the assessment of regulatory and legislative proposals as an essential part of their legislative process. So it's very important thing that we need to implement here in our country. Now let's quickly go through latest news. The first thing is, after 24 years, life term for Major and 6 others for encounter case. It's good that finally justice is delivered. The bad thing is only this one, 24 years. So again, investigation, the whole criminal justice system, is working, but the pace is very slow. Windmills are not so green for wildlife because they are not emitting any carbon, but they are, negatively impacting this birds' avian life, and they are also creating noise as well. If you want to know more about noise or noise pollution, just a couple of days ago in Press Information Bureau analysis, I talked about this noise pollution in our country, a thing that is underestimated, but the health impact and other things of this thing. So you can check that one. And Special Forces of India and USA are going to have exercise in near future. A very interesting thing coming from Supreme Court, that victim of a crime should have a say in punishment, or victim or family members. So just like America and some other countries, now finally this victim, or if the victim is not there, then these family members will be called and they will have a say that a person should have 5 years or 10 years or 50 years or should be hanged or whatever. And based on the not recommendation, but based on this opinion, this opinion will be taken into consideration. I'm not saying that if someone will say 50 years, then 50 years will be awarded. No, that opinion will be taken into consideration, and if it looks all right to the judges, then they will go with it, or else they can of course reject it as well. So it's just a small thing but very important thing. Here you can see this gentleman here with his horse. He belongs to this nomad community called Bakarwal, and what they do is in the winter time, they live in mountain regions. So in summertime they are high up here in the mountain, and in winter time they come down for food. So their migration is more from up to down, And Saudi vows retaliation if punished. It's about this Mr. Khashoggi. And then you have Afghan soldiers, 18 are killed because of this Taliban attack. In the TaxNet, IT department is using data analytics to analyze deposits of scrapped notes. Then we have this foreign companies are not happy with India's or RBI's stand on storing this local data here. Now we have to be a bit careful here. We cannot share our sovereign data with anyone, isn't it? So they have to understand it's not about protection, it is about security. And then you have this Swasthya Sathi Yojana of West Bengal. So just have a quick glance over it. Vocabs are there right on your screen. Saturday's map-based question was Tajikistan. Answer is Tajikistan, and go through this whole region, Central Asia, very important one. Now, I have made a little bit of change with map-based quiz. So rather than just asking you the name or identifying this geography, we are going to dig down a little bit, right? So can you give me the name of the person that you can see on your screen? I don't need his full name. His full name is too long. Right? Just give me a small short name. Tell me his country, right? The name of his country, and also tell me at least two things about his country, right? It could be capital as well as the second biggest city. It could be border sharing with. So just two or three, right? And make sure that if someone has posted, I'm not saying that you should not repeat, that's fine. But if you, whilst posting your comment, if you see that someone else has talked about the same thing, then do try to find something else. And I find it quite interesting. This idea came into my mind yesterday that if we do this thing, then what will happen is that if we have at least 2%, 3% students answering this question, then you will know, generally speaking, many things about a particular country. So we are going to give it a go, and I request you guys to be an active participant in this exercise. This is your answer here. This is your new question, new flag. That's everything. Enjoy your studies. God bless you all. Jai Hind.